Salam, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.
We have a lot to talk about.
A little bit. Just 7 pounds, 12 ounces to talk about.
That's right. So we have a new little human in our life.
And baby Yusuf.
Alhamdulillah.
As if you didn't already know, because the word has definitely got out.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Although we managed to keep that secret for 9 months.
9 months.
Except for a few of you.
A few people kind of caught on, but for the most part, like 99.9% of you had no idea that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And that we were expecting a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. We thought we would do a kind of summary about our birth story. A lot of you wanted to hear about it. So let's just dive right in.
Absolutely. So if she would have been pregnant for the first 2 times, you definitely would have known.
Yes.
Because you had a lot of water retention. And her head swelled up like a watermelon.
Gee, thanks for that.
No problem. Just trying to be honest, you know?
Yeah. I did have water retention this time around, but I felt like it was more in my body, like not my face.
Your legs and stuff. It wasn't...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So let's rewind to 36 weeks, right before we became full term, 2-term, I don't know what they call it anymore.
Full term is 40 weeks.
That's right, 2-term.
2-term is everything is finished. It's all done making its stuff. All of their organs are fully functional. They're, after that, it's just about putting on weight.
Yeah, right? That's right.
And that's what I say. 2-term is 40 weeks. No, 2-term.
37 weeks.
Full term is 40.
That's right.
2-term is 37.
Yeah. So 36 weeks, we think nothing of it, and all of a sudden I started having contractions at night.
All the way through?
The whole night, like consistently, like 3 to 4 minutes apart, and it got painful, and we were like, okay, is this the real deal?
Called the midwife, called the doula.
Yep.
Almost ready to go to the hospital.
Yep.
And then...
Fudger hits and silence.
Silence.
And then it started again the next day. And it always started at night. That's one thing that...
Yeah, that's the common denominator, is that once your body's relaxed, and that's usually, at least for us, like in the first 2 pregnancies, that's how it happened. Both of them were, they came on at night, or like early morning when your body's fully relaxed.
And the reason why is because when you are relaxed, you're less stressed out, and oxytocin runs through your body, right? You're having a good time, you're relaxed, all the cuddles and snuggles and things. And so that's when your body... Oxytocin is essentially the hormone that is released in your body that starts labor and continues labor. So that's one of the reasons why it always happens at night, or for the most part happens at night. So
we definitely had a few good, I won't say scares, but it is definitely a reality check when it's like, oh my God, it's time. It's I haven't even packed my bag yet.
Yeah, the longest that the false labor lasted was 12 hours straight.
And that's not a joke. Everything was packed except all my stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it was like, next day.
Will packed everything.
I didn't have his seat in the car because I had taken it out of the van because I was moving stuff around. So I had to reinstall his car seat, pack the diaper bag, get all my clothes together, make sure everything was good, all the cameras and whatnot, for the big event. Because we thought, all right, this is it.
We thought we would have time. Like, I think everybody kind of just assumes that you still have time.
You don't. You
basically don't.
If you know that it's coming, best to be prepared.
Yeah, that's right. So we never actually... did we end up going to the hospital?
We did.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, once.
Yeah, so we did end up going once.
Sometime around 37, 38 weeks.
And then I got checked, and I wasn't dilated more than a centimeter. And of course, when you're on the way to the hospital, the false labor stops.
Of course. Which is right at the same time you're talking to the midwife.
Yeah, because you have adrenaline running through your body, which stops oxytocin. And of course, once we got to the hospital, the contractions had kind of subsided, even though they were like 3 to 4 minutes apart. Yep. And they say like 411 or 511, so which means you're having contractions every 4 minutes, and they're about a minute long for about an hour. So that's what was happening to us. Like, we had a contraction timer, and we were timing it, and that's literally what was happening.
Disclaimer.
What?
Did not happen to me.
What?
You said us.
Oh yeah.
Plurality doesn't exist here, guys. So for all you guys out there that say, we're pregnant. No, you're not. No, you're not. She's pregnant, and you're along for the ride.
That's right.
And it may be a hell of a ride. Yeah. Likely will be. But they get the I'll say the reward, but
the golden
they
star.
get to take claim to that, you know.
That title. That I was pregnant. Yeah. So, flash forward a couple days, we realized why that was happening. It was because our baby still hadn't engaged in the pelvis, and he was sunny side up. So it was just like my body trying to turn him. And often that happens like when your baby's just not in the optimal position, and your body will try to do its part in getting the baby ready for delivery.
So yeah, people often hear that, right? Like we always tend to know that when we talk about Muslims and child engagement, it's definitely like we hadn't figured out who he was going to marry yet because he wasn't engaged. So normally we'll push back the pregnancy until we know who he's going to marry, and then that's...
You guys, I hope you understand his sarcasm and jokes.
Hey, it makes these things fun.
Yeah, but anyways.
Child marriage is a no-no, FYI.
So the funny thing is every time those contractions would start, there was an exercise that was called the Three Sisters, and it's from spinningbabies.com, which is a fantastic resource if you are pregnant and you're 30-ish weeks. We highly recommend that you do those exercises
Definitely.
every day.
Just be careful and understand that spinning babies is not shaking babies.
No.
Because that's very dangerous.
The website is called Spinning Babies, and it just helps your baby get in the optimal position in your pelvis and all that stuff. So we would do that.
Yes, because that's just... Engaging is when the baby's head is down in the pelvis. He or she is ready to go, and the cervix will then start to open gradually as he's in there. But so our little guy was kind of like, nah, no, not today.
Not today.
Here. So.
Yeah. So we did those exercises every night, and every time we did the exercises, the contractions would subside. Yeah. So it was like the exercises kind of just make things optimal and like give space in the pelvis and all that stuff. So we did that, and alhamdulillah, the false labor eventually went away. It took about a week though, didn't it?
Yeah. And then by that time, it was almost time for real labor.
And then by that time, yeah, for sure.
All right, so there's something we should talk about here. There's a magic elixir that our midwives had suggested, and Sana decided, okay, like we went and got everything. What is it called?
The midwives brew.
Midwives brew.
Yeah.
Kind of like witches brew. I wouldn't want to call them witches, but...
I don't know why they call it the midwives brew, but...
that's why.
We tried everything, you guys. Like, from 37 weeks to 40 weeks, I was doing, like, squats. I was doing different exercises.
Eating a lot of dates to thin your...
expressing colostrum.
Stuff.
Yeah, dates. So many different things to try and induce labor. And... alhamdulillah, he was satisfied in there. He didn't want to come out. So.
Because you didn't want to have to deal with... Pitocin. Is it Pitocin? An artificial Pitocin.
Pitocin.
Yeah. It's Pitocin today,
it's close
guys.
Now. It's Pitocin, yeah.
So
I didn't want to be induced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so she decided to drink the witch's brew on his due date.
Yeah, on the due date.
And interestingly enough...
At exactly 40 weeks.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, our little man is a statistic, meaning if anything could have been... If there was like a 1% chance that something would have done this in her pregnancy, she fell into that 1%.
Always. I always seem to fall into those like minimal statistics. I don't know why.
Another minimal statistic is babies who are actually born on their due date.
Which is like less than 5% of babies.
Lo and behold, Mr. Prince Yusuf was born on his due date.
That's right. He was born on his due date. And the funny thing is we woke up the morning of his due date, and Zainab had come into bed with us in the morning, as she always does, and she was snuggling my belly. As she always did.
She always did, yeah.
And she literally straight up was like, I want to meet him today. I think he's coming today. And I was like, really? You think that he's coming? She's like, yep, I think he's coming today.
And although she didn't get to meet him that day,
he
did come into this world that day.
He did, alhamdulillah. So I took the midwives brew. By the way, you guys, don't go and like Google it and look it up. Like, this is something you should only do if your midwife or OB suggests. Like, it's not recommended for everybody.
Here's a reason why, because I heard that it can cause violent diarrhea.
Yeah.
And what you don't want is when you're giving a baby to be just
violently
throwing stuff out all over the midwives. Yeah. And the OB. They probably will not be too happy.
So basically the theory suggests, because there's castor oil in this, is that it irritates your bowels, which then contracts your bowels, which then contracts your uterus. But my midwives have a different recipe than what you'll find online, and it completely minimizes or completely gets rid of, eliminates the side effects of the bowel stuff. So I never experienced that, alhamdulillah. And so I took it at 9 o'clock in the morning, and 3 hours later, just like my midwife said, I started labor.
Yep.
So.
And within what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
Not even. We were on our way to the hospital.
Yeah.
Bags were packed this time. Car seat was installed this time.
We were ready to go.
Ready to go.
So we left with the intent of bringing Yusuf home with us. So we went to the hospital, and they hooked us up to all the machines. And that's when like I had felt this, like when we were at the house, I had felt that I was having a contraction, and then I would have another one and another one at home, and then I would have a bit of a break. And I realized like why I was feeling that once we got to the hospital when they hooked me up to the monitors. It's because I was literally having a contraction, another one, and then a very short break, and then it would start again.
She's just an overachiever. She just wanted to get things done 3 times as quick.
Yeah. So the midwives thought that was very strange, and I obviously thought that was very strange. Like, it was not the best feeling ever to have no breaks in between. So they kept me on the monitors, and then at that point, that's when they were like, okay, let's admit you.
Yep.
So.
And over the course of the next couple of hours, I would say 6 hours or so, that just continued. The contractions continued.
The same pattern.
You did get the pokey poke, the
What?
hokey pokey, epidural.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But was that before or after they broke my water? Because my water hadn't broken.
Epidural was before.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So at the time when all of this was happening, I think I was only like 3 centimeters dilated at that point. But if you guys had watched my previous video where I talked about my pregnancy symptoms, I had severe pelvic pain. It's called SPD. And because of that pelvic pain, I felt the intensity of the pain that I was feeling was like way more, way more. Like
the stacked contractions were essentially the severity of contractions while you're like pushing the baby out.
Yeah,
is what they said.
Yeah, that's what the midwives had said. It was like it was too much. They said the intensity was way too much for my body.
So then we had an OB switch. Actually, so they what happened was. So myself and our doula and the midwives, the OB just kind of came in periodically to check in. So
because of the abnormal contractions.
Exactly. Yeah. So have the belly band, the heart rate monitor for the baby, and his heart rate every time her contractions would come on so heavy, his heart rate would drop, which obviously because essentially it's like being underwater, you can't breathe. So for back to back to back could theoretically be dangerous if left to go the whole distance. Yeah. So his heart rate would drop. Then we would roll Sana over to the other side, and then it would stabilize, and then it would happen again. We would roll, stabilize.
Yeah. And at this time, I had already gotten that epidural, and again, like I had gotten it because the pelvic pain was so bad with the contractions, I couldn't handle it. So when they would roll me, his heart rate would go back up again, but every time the contractions would come, not every single time, but every few minutes, his heart rate would dip. And then all of a sudden they like lost him, like on the monitors.
Yeah, so they had to put the head monitor one. Not a fan.
They had to literally insert a what do you even call
it?
It attaches into his skull.
It's a scalp probe.
Oh, that made me so nervous.
He only just got rid of that mark that was there.
He's a month old now.
At the end of the day, it's more accurate, and you're not searching and you're not worrying.
Yeah.
But all for naught.
Yeah, but at that time they broke my water as well.
Yeah. No.
So.
It was before.
Was it before?
Yeah.
Did they insert it and then it break my water?
No, you broke the water. The water was broken before.
Yeah.
It has to be in order to get to the scalp.
That's right. So then they inserted that, and then they were more accurately able to see his heart rate.
Then we had shift change. And
then another OB.
The new OB came in, and she's like, okay. Walked out, comes back in, she's like, oh no, we gotta do a C-section now.
She wasn't as forgiving as the first OB was. The first OB was like, because we had midwives, alhamdulillah, like they advocated and they were like, let's just give it some time and see how this plays out. And same with the other OB. She was like, okay, like let's hold off a little bit and see how this goes. Whereas the second OB that came in when the shift change happened, she was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, to her credit, you also have to look at things prospectively that if the baby's already in distress, going up and down, and you're only like at that time like 4 centimeters dilated, you got another 6 to go, which could be a day. And so if he's that's gonna be too much for him.
And the contractions were already so high up there, intense in intensity, that imagine like as it got higher as I kept dilating. So
and they did allow longer normally without midwives to be there to
they would have done that C-section right from the very beginning when my contractions were irregular.
So it was an interesting experience.
So they rushed
away you go.
They basically were like, we're just gonna have to do an emergency cesarean. So I just remember bawling my eyes out. I remember looking at Will and I just kept thinking I was a failure, because that's how I felt, because we had done hypnobirthing. I was so excited to do that and implement that. I had a doula. I was so determined to have another VBAC because I had a VBAC with Zainab.
I did, however, tell Sana she does owe me a refund for the hypnobirthing. because we didn't actually use it. So
we did use it in the beginning. We did to an extent. You know, it is what it is.
We'll talk after.
Yeah, we'll talk. So,
but at the end of the day, you guys,
yeah,
you can plan, but Allah is the best of planners. Mm-hmm. God is the best of planners. Mm-hmm. So although we planned, so we planned for everything that we could, except the emergency what ifs, because you just don't know. Like, how are you going to plan for something that you don't?
For an emergency.
Yeah, exactly. So we did everything we could to make sure that we were prepared, and then. If having been down this road before with having an emergency C-section, we knew what to expect. Shout out to the hospital staff that was there. It was amazing. It was way better than it was the first time around.
It was incredible. If I had to describe the experience of this C-section versus the first one that we had with Amina, it was night and day. Like night and day. He obviously wasn't allowed in the OR, so they rolled me into the OR. I violently puked, which I'm still traumatized about. Like, imagine puking when you're on your back. It was horrific. And it was because they were inserting the medication to, like, do the spinal and, like, completely numb me. And as he was literally putting the injection into my body, I could feel the nausea. It was the worst thing ever. And he wasn't there, of course, because he wasn't allowed. He wasn't allowed to come in. So my midwife was there and was able to hold my hand and stuff. But, then eventually, once everything was clear, I was strapped in, they were ready to go, he came in and literally within seconds, I feel like,
so
they cut him out.
Normally, like, you're not allowed to see what's going on.
That's right.
Probably for malpractice issues, in case they do something wrong and you see it or whatever, I don't know. Yeah. But and this was like the tiniest little OR, there's like wire, it felt like...
I know.
It felt like it going through a kid's jungle gym. Like at those play places, I was like, "There's wires, and I'm ducking. I'm going this way and that way."
It was probably as big as this room, like as the nursery.
Yeah, and as I got there, they're like, "Okay, sit down," and I'm like, "No, I want to stand." And then like I look because I could see over, and then I saw like the slice and like
blood.
I like belly fat.
Oh wow!
Because everybody has belly fat. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Especially pregnant women, it's normal.
Oh yeah, for
right.
Sure.
So then like the yellow, if you've ever dealt with this kind of thing, or skinned an animal.
And lots of blood. Because I saw the video, you guys. I watched my stomach being cut open.
Well, yeah. So, and then they're like, "Okay, no, you have to sit down." Okay, so I sat down, and then they're doing their thing, and I'm just comforting her, and then they're like, "Is Dad here?" I'm like, "You just saw me walk in. Of course I'm here." They're like, so they had him out sitting, kind of on her lap.
Yeah.
And so I
pulled him out. Yeah.
I had her phone recording. I was like. Oh, wow. And so they did delayed cord clamping, not as long as I would have wanted.
A minute, alhamdulillah. At least they did.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to see him, and then he just started peeing all over the place.
He peed everywhere. Literally within seconds of being born, just peed everywhere. It was so funny. Typical. Yeah. But let's just rewind for a second. Because Will peed all over his doctor when he was born too. I just have to throw that out there.
So I told my mom
father, like son.
I told my mom about this, and she said that the first thing I did was pee in the doctor's face. I don't know if that's because back in the 80s, I don't know if they still held the babies up and slapped them. Like, you know, because that's how they used to get babies to cry.
Well, this time, I saw, they were vigorously rubbing Yusuf, like squeezing him.
And then the cord.
Yeah, they squeezed, and that's when he cried.
So I think probably they picked me up, slapped me, and I was like, "Whoa, yeah," and then just right in his face. Yeah.
And then, alhamdulillah, like, he was perfect. Like, he had no issues. No issues with oxygen, no issues with heart rate, nothing. Like, he
jaundice,
was perfect.
nothing. Alhamdulillah. And the coolest part, you guys, which separates the two experiences that we had, is that so they had him out. I didn't get to cut the cord. Nobody asked me, and I was not impressed.
They did ask you. I watched this video back the other day, and they're like, "Dad, do you want to cut the cord?" And then you're like, no, it's good. Or you literally said, I kid you not, I will play this video back for you.
No.
I'm literally not joking.
Why would I not? I did for...
I kid you not. I'm going to show you. Should I show you right now?
Not right now. We're in the middle of this.
I'll show you after. But they did ask you. You were in the moment. It's okay.
I must have misheard.
Yeah.
Because I cut my daughter's first, and I didn't get to cut the second. But the cool thing is that our baby doctor from our first pregnancy was on call, and she actually cut the cord. She didn't ask me either. But it's because I said my daughter was cuter than her twins, and she probably still held the grudge. Remember that?
I do remember that. Okay, anyways. So, so they're stitching me up. Alhamdulillah, they bring Yusuf over to me. The most beautiful boy I have ever laid eyes on. I'm actually not joking. Like, he is the cutest thing ever. He is so cute. Mashallah, mashallah. So they hand him over to us. He's pasty white, by the way. Like, whiter than a sheet of paper.
Yeah. He's whiter than that crib he's in.
He was whiter than Will. It was so crazy.
By far.
And then the funny thing is the next day he was so pink and had the most gorgeous skin
And now
tone.
He's perfectly caramel like his sisters.
Now he's, caramel. But anyways, so they stitch me up, and at that point, Will's gone. Like, he goes with the baby.
Well, kind of.
They were still stitching me up.
The cool thing about where we were is that the OR and the recovery is like...
next door to each other.
It's right there.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't let me carry the baby out into recovery because tripping
some kind of
hazards,
liability.
whatever. Exactly.
So they had to carry the baby.
Our midwife, who's an amazing person, and she was so awesome to have her throughout the whole thing. So they made her carry the baby, and then we went right outside. So this is like immediately with our first. There was so much time delay before we actually got to hold her. Yeah. So immediately, like
I feel like it was hours before I actually got to hold Amina and nurse her.
I had my gown open and then took him, and we did skin to skin for the whole time until Mom showed up, which this time was like a half an hour. Just as soon as they were done stitching, into recovery, and then instantly.
And that golden hour. Okay, this is the thing is I never got that golden hour with Amina. Mm-hmm. I got it with Zainab, alhamdulillah, because she was a VBAC, and they basically put her on my chest like right after. But with Yusuf, he was a C-section baby, and within that, first 20 minutes or whatever, after he had already done skin to skin with Will, they gave him to me, and I was able to nurse him, which we spent an hour together. Until I was basically nodding in and off because I was so exhausted.
In and
out because I was so exhausted. But being able to just spend that time with him was... I can't even. It was the best. It was the best experience. So didn't even feel like a C-section at that point because they really emphasized that 1-to-1, and there was no nurses coming and checking my blood pressure and doing this and doing that. Like, they gave us the time. They just sat there and just like basically watched us bond. It was. There
was the one time during the night where the machine's like beep beep.
Yeah.
I just went. Off you go.
I'm pretty sure you unplugged it, but anyways.
It wasn't life-threatening.
Yeah, and then within 24 hours, we were home. So we spent one night there, just that night, that same night, because he was born at 9... What time was he born? He was born at
9:25.
9:25. And then the next night at 11 o'clock p.m., we got to go home. And it was midnight, and we got to sleep in our own beds.
Yeah. So the only night that she had ever spent away from Amina was when Zainab was born, and the only night that she ever spent away from Zainab is when Yusuf was born.
That's crazy. It was so crazy. Our kids definitely had a hard time without us, but they were super, 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 super happy.
And
They're just in love with him.
If you haven't already checked out our TikTok or YouTube where they got to meet him for the first time, first time they got to lay eyes on him, it was just a magical moment. And I'm so happy we captured that.
Yes, it was the most surreal moment ever. And I have goosebumps like thinking about it because Amina and Zainab especially, because Amina's already a big sister to Zainab, right? But Zainab especially really, really, really wanted to become a big sister. And when we lost Iman, that hope was like gone. That hope was crushed. So when she met eyes, like put her eyes on Yusuf, oh my God, it was so cool.
Unbelievable experience.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah, it is what it is. At this point I've had 2 C-sections and 1 VBAC, and I'm grateful for both experiences. I've labored every single time though, which is crazy.
Yeah, there was no scheduling.
There's no scheduled C-section, but I've labored every time, and I'm super grateful for the outcome, and alhamdulillah, recovery is going well, and he is just thriving. And he's over there right now.
Yep.
He's a month old. Yesterday he turned a month old, so we're so grateful. So if you were to end this, what piece of advice can you give to new parents?
I would say that you're not in control of anything, really, as much as you try to prepare. So don't be so upset that the outcome might not be what you expected. Yeah. Be thankful, be happy, and no matter what, never lose faith, never lose hope. Just enjoy the moment because it literally lasts a second.
Yeah, and I'm looking back at Yusuf's pictures and videos from literally only 4 weeks ago, and I can't even recognize him because he has grown so much.
I can because he's my son. So.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, I can't believe how quickly they grow. So, like, soak in every moment. My piece of advice is to just soak in every moment and just remember that these days, even though you might be sleepless, are very short.
Yep.
So, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.